317 yards on the ground. 317 yards on the ground. Carter the Power Bryant joins us every single Monday at 7:30. Give the man a clap. Carter, what are we going to do?
Yeah, so let's start with just a few just tendencies. So you look at Jackson Dart and you look at his passing chart. I was able to see it from SEC StatCat a little bit earlier, Blake, and he completed 3 passes through the air, 11 yards or more. So it wasn't as if this historic, and I know that makes everybody just mad when you say historic, but that's what happened. It was a historic.
So we could have played bump and run coverage.
You could do that, or you could do the very simple aspect of tackling. You could just tackle people. And part of the issue, Blake, all right, I understand that everyone has shared the PFF stat 30 plus. Well, they only had 17. LSU had counted over 30. I had over 30 as well.
34 missed tackles.
Right. It wasn't that there were missed tackles, Blake. It wasn't just that. It's how easy the missed tackles are, okay? Normally, when a player misses a tackle, okay, it's hard. It's hard to run somebody over. It is hard to juke someone out of your shoes. That is oftentimes, Blake, what differentiates me with certain skill position players. When I get you the football, can you make a guy miss? Because you can't block everybody. Okay, it wasn't just, and I want everyone to go back and rewatch the game. I know as painful as that may be, it's how easy the missed tackles were. We were offering no resistance whatsoever on most of these, right? When they would juke us out of our shoes, we wouldn't be close, right? If we even got contact and missed a tackle, they would still be able to maintain top speed. So it was that bad. That was the thing that really stood out to me. Now, I understand Matt House was still really bad, but the truth is, Blake, you cannot play defense if you can't do the number one thing a defense is supposed to do, which is tackle.
Boy,
so you've got to do better. And even if you don't bring the guy down, show a little bit more fight. Show a little bit more. Don't just get clean misses. That's what you see when big teams go up against FCS level teams. So as of this point, Blake, I totally agree with you. I was listening to you before this. This is worse than the Pelini years, Durante years, any years. This is the worst LSU defense of all time.
All right. With that statement, what do you do now?
Okay. So
now let me preview on something that you and I talked about yesterday very quickly. I know that you don't want to do this, but the ultimate goal in every single game is to win it, right? Like every single aspect is to come out of every game with a W. Do you just slow the game down offensively? Is that your only option, or is there something that you can do defensively that can help?
Yeah, so I understood your argument. We brought this up, via a lengthy phone call yesterday. Should you run the football more and try to shorten the game? And the answer to that is no. I wouldn't do it for this reason. You always want Jaden and the offense to play this well. You don't want to slow the game down and ruin the rhythm that they have right now. That is the hardest thing to do, which is score. The issue here, Blake, is a point that you've made, a point that I've made, and I think every single person watching this has made. You don't need to play excellent defense, right? It is still crazy to think. It is still crazy to think that LSU still almost
below average defense, a below average.
I really do mean this. Any LSU defense pre-2020, any single one of them, heck, get the defense from the 30s when they had leather helmets and played with chewing tobacco.
Chinese bandits.
Yeah, anyone.
Get the bandits back.
Any one of in their current state, any one of those defenses would have won this game. That just lets you know how bad they are. LSU is the third best offense in all of college football and opponent adjusted EPA per play. They're the second worst defense. Only UMass has a worse defense in all of college football. Now, this is, I see a lot of people in the chat. Well, no, Doug Carter, tackling needs to get better. What are some things you would recommend do? Well, the first thing you have to do is find out who can't play, who is actively hurting you the most individually, who isn't picking this scheme up. Now, the issue, Blake, is a lot of people are playing atrociously bad. So let's just do a little process of elimination. Who are some guys that are playing so unbelievably well right now in this defense that you can't take off the field? Well, at this point, Whit Weeks was my best defensive player on the field this past weekend. He has got to play. And it's not so much that he's got to play, Blake. It's he was significantly better than the other two starting linebackers that we were playing in Omar Speights and Greg Penn. So we have to start with Whit Weeks. It's LSU's best linebacker. Now, is he going to have some bad games? Yes, he's a true freshman. This is hard for him, okay? This is hard for anybody as a true freshman. But a fifth-year senior in Omar Speights is not playing well. And Greg Penn, who slipped a lot, I know it's an excuse, but he did slip a lot in this game. He had an awful game. He just did. Now, up to this point, Blake, Greg Penn has been really good. He had one bad game. So I do think you need to start in the middle right there with Whit Weeks and Greg Penn being your linebackers. And then from there, it gets tougher as you move backwards in the secondary. I think at this point, Andre Sam still is your best DB, even though his game was bad versus Ole Miss. It wasn't the worst. So that is a guy I think needs to be a part of this. And then you got to start asking some really serious questions about the defensive line. None of them had a good game. Not a single one of them, I would say, Blake.
Here's the problem that I have with the D-line, Carter. All right. Yeah. What in the outright shit are we doing running the odd man front? You're not an odd man team. You do. And then, Carter, the one where Judkins did the little spin move and found the crease.
Yeah.
Mekhi Wingo's playing the nose.
Yeah.
He's 6 foot on his best day, 295 pounds. On his best day. And we're putting the smallest defender on that position group on the nose. What are we doing?
Yeah, it's a good point, Blake. And I honestly think that
he did the film breakdown. Am I lying? Was he or was he not on the nose?
He was. And on that run in particular, I don't know what the defensive line was doing, Blake. I really don't. The Savion Jones ran into
He's running a stunt. He's running a stunt, and nobody else on the defensive front is running a stunt. The only reason that they figured it out was Mekhi Wingo was like, oh, shit, if he's going to do it, I might as well go and fill the B gap.
Right. And that is what you don't want happening. You want everyone to be in cohesion with each other at that portion, okay? This was a tough game for Mason as well. And this
what else is new? What else is new?
And I'll also say this, Blake. They played 88 plays defensively, and their legs are going to be so heavy going into this next week's game. The schematically, I will say this. I do think Matt House is a major issue at this point. I also think individually, Blake, and this is a very strong thing to say about a team, but I can say this because I was around LSU a lot in 2010 and 2011, around those secondaries that were the best secondaries we've honestly.
Shout out Brandon Taylor, I might add.
Right. Yeah. So Brandon Taylor, who I interviewed Brandon Taylor probably more than anyone on that team that year. Those guys were so smart individually as football players. They had very high football IQ to the point where
Brandon's probably one of the smartest football minds that LSU has on their staff.
Right.
And he's not even on their football staff.
Oh, you're talking about currently.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's on their radio staff. I mean,
he's
on the radio staff. Employed by LSU. And I got to be honest, Carter. What does Brandon Taylor know that Robert Steeples, or what does Robert Steeples know that Brandon Taylor doesn't?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, probably very little other than coaching the guys every day. The issue Blake, is so those units really knew the game. And situationally, Blake, this defense is not smart. Okay. To me, so when I put together a film study, I always say this: I'm not a coach. I'm not as smart as any of those coaches. I'm not as smart as any of those players. They know all the calls, what they're supposed to do, and all of that. What I can tell you, though, is there are universal things you need to do in certain situations. The lowest graded play for me going into this game, the biggest play that affected LSU season was Kyron Lacy dropping that pass versus Florida State. Okay. It was such a big play.
He had a crucial drop on that last drive.
And he had crucial. Yeah, he had crucial. Yeah. And he also had a crucial drop at the end of the second quarter as well. But that is no longer it. The biggest mistake was Denver Harris's missed tackle on the 3rd and 11 when you had him short of the line to gain, and he tried to make a spectacular tackle, left his feet, and just missed it. And it was
be careful. They'll come after you over Denver now.
Yeah, I know. And this comes from someone that was very excited that Denver Harris transferred over here. And he has all the tools. But situationally, you just honestly have to wrap the guy up and just ride him out of bounds. He jumped up, tried to wrestle the guy down and make one of these spectacular Troy Polamalu type plays. And you don't even need to bring him in on the ground right there. If you just wrap him up, he can't go forward on a comeback route. It's impossible. His back is turned. He has no momentum. If you just wrap him up, he can't. He's definitely not getting the first down there. And instead, because the missed tackle was so clean, Blake, it ended up being a 40-plus yard gain. And we're up by 9. Okay. You make that stop right there, at least you're making them earn driving down the field in that situation. So that was just not a good, like, IQ football player. There's no need to try and make the spectacular tackle right there. So it's individually understanding what you need to do in certain situations that is really hurting this team as well.
I do just want to say this, okay? You come on this show regardless of what's going on, barring us going to a College World Series, and we're doing every post-game show.
Yeah, of course.
What did I say about this offense in the offseason?
Oh, you said they were special.
Did I or did I not say that they'd be the best offense in the SEC?
No, you were right on.
Okay.
You're right on.
It doesn't matter. Because going back to your point of the conversation that we had in reference to, do you slow this offense down? Carter, you don't have a choice.
Okay. So we disagree here.
We disagree here.
That's fine.
The reason I say this is because you cannot allow 55 points. You cannot allow for them that run 94 plays. Right? Like, you got to give your defense some semblance of a chance. Okay? But here's the problem. It's not Mike Denbrock's responsibility, nor is it Jaden Daniels' responsibility to do that. If a guy's wide open, Carter, they were trying to do that in the second half. Ole Miss scored 3 points in the third quarter. And I thought to myself, okay, well, they're going to slow it down a little bit. Because go back and look at it. 55 points, 3 of them, only 3 came in the third quarter. They go back, they go away from it. I think it was Logan Diggs had 10 carries in that quarter. And Carter, you took the lead. You also had a third down stop, and you got a 3 and out. So to some semblance, I'm like, okay, well, the only stops you're getting is when you slow things down. I'm not telling you not to go out there and score and throw it all over the place, but instead of 36 seconds on the field, can you make it 3 minutes and 36 seconds?
I was trying to do a that's what she said joke after that, but I just couldn't get it.
Listen, I get what you're saying in the reference to that's what she said.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
No, you got to do – because, Carter, is there any – yes or no question, is there anything you can really change defensively from a personnel standpoint? No.
No, I mean, you can't. But the goal of football, the first and most important thing to do is score.
I'm not telling them to completely slow down, but on critical early downs, instead of throwing an inside fade, run the inside fade next, because Logan Diggs is not going to the house. He's not going for 45 and a tutty.
Right.
His longest run on the season is 21 yards.
Yeah, and his longest run versus Ole Miss was 13. So I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Because if you run that clock down, let's say you snap the ball with just 5 seconds, you've taken well over a half of a minute off that clock.
Right.
Like there comes some gamemanship that you got to do there. Now, let me ask you a dumb question.
Let's hear it.
I don't think it's dumb, but I know others who will obliterate me for this take. Brian Kelly doesn't have to tell Mike Denbrock a fucking thing anymore. There's not one thing that they can do better offensively that Mike Denbrock and Joe Sloan can't handle. It's nothing.
No, I agree. Yeah.
You call defenses for 15 years of your life, get back to it. As much as you're spending your time offensively, it's time for you to walk to the other field and start giving it to it defensively.
Yeah, and honestly, Blake, part of all of this is on Brian Kelly to a certain extent as well, because he did make the decision. Obviously, the Jimmy Lindsey situation was something
he can't do. I mean,
there's nothing you can do about that.
Nothing you can do.
But I would have thought a little bit longer about who did what as far as the coaches doing what responsibilities. And he admitted today that, well, they needed to bring in Pete Jenkins' help with the defensive line because there's a lot on John Jancic's plate. You know, I know it's a collaborative effort with the special teams, but, you know, you go from being an analyst, then you're doing special teams and jack linebacker. Now you're not really doing the jack anymore. You're doing special teams and the defensive line coach. And it all just kind of got jumbled. And I think you could see it. The defense is just not well versed in front dynamics. Run fitting assignments were just all over the place versus Ole Miss. So I do like bringing in somebody to help with the defensive line. And I agree with you. I do think Brian Kelly does need to spend more time coaching on the defensive side of the football. And I do agree with giving Matt House another game at least calling the plays. But if you are Brian Kelly, you're not really worried about the offense. You're worried about the defense going into next week.
A couple of super chats here. Nola Grizz says, I know we have to lick our wounds after that performance Saturday, listen to the post-game feedback, but I can't wait to move on to Missouri talk. Hashtag Carter the GOAT, send the house back to the house. All right, we're going to actually talk about that next. We're going to talk about Little Missouri next. Adam Abear says, Blake Carter, how much does Brooks going down have to do with the defense going to crap? I got to be honest. It would help some in the leadership and some coverage. Outside of that, Carter, he's not – I mean, that front seven still gives up 317 yards on the ground.
Yeah. And this isn't just me trying to get like sentimental points or anything like that. This is just strictly from a football standpoint. I'm happy that Greg Brooks is getting better. I think it's massive.
Thumbs up thing very quickly that Brian Kelly. So can we hold on one second? The thing, him having motor skills and understanding is a massive thing. So yeah, Greg Brooks, we're right there with you, buddy. Let's just talk about that. Okay.
And the loss is massive. It really is. The defense is missing some bite. I don't think that this defense plays in the back end of as withered and tired as they were in this game if he is out on the field, because that's just who he is. He's a leader. He's a dog. And it would also allow Andre Sam to play more nickel, which I think is
what he needs to be doing.
Right. So
why they have him playing safety. Carter, he was the most prolific group of 5 slot player in the country last year, Pro Football Focus rated.
Right.
And now they moved him to safety because you don't want to play Ryan Yates.
Yeah, and it's just more snaps for Sage Ryan, who has consistently been just tough, despite what any great despite what any great
on stat lines you read.
Right. I would issue a warning on one.
I mean, you went to the first quarter and found his first missed tackle that they said didn't happen.
Right. I was very, very perplexed by that, but still, yeah, I think Greg Brooks. It's a good question, Adam. It's a massive loss. It just is, and it's not necessarily. I'm not saying that I'm not saying Greg Brooks is Jamal Adams. I'm not saying Greg Brooks is anything like that. It's just numbers at this point, and he is a guy that I could trust, and you wouldn't. I don't think you'd be seeing as many missed tackles now as if he was out there.
Well, and I mean, like, look at plays that he had against like Auburn. He won you the game against Auburn.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Let's give you a little bit, Carter, about Missouri. I'm so nervous about this one. And and I got to give you, as the kids say today, I got to give you your flowers on something. Last year, you came on the show and said that the only two teams in the last 20 years that had won back-to-back road games, at least in the SEC, however you said it, is 2019 LSU and 2022 Georgia. Well, LSU just faced a back-to-back, or coming on one on the back-to-back, pause. But on the first one, they lost, and the second one, we don't know yet. Going into Missouri, man, I'm nervous about this game after what just happened because Luther Burden might be the best receiver in the country.
Yeah. Well, Blake, I did a video on this game in February about how much the Missouri game, how that's, Missouri plays a lot of 11 a.m. home games.
Carter, I had them as the second best team in the East.
Yeah.
People called me an idiot. I had them as the second best team in the East.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's not a place that is, unbelievably hostile, but rarely do you see teams play at their absolute best when they go there. And it's going to be a tough game. You get back in, as Brian Kelly said today, at 2 a.m, got to get back on a plane, 11 a.m. I was also very bullish on Missouri going into the season as well. They're well coached. Blake Baker, is going to be really fired up to coach this game, obviously, for a lot of reasons. And it's going to be a hard game. It just is. And I know LSU sitting at a 7-point favorite. SP Plus says Missouri actually has a 1-point favorite. So it's just a tough spot in the schedule. And it's not necessarily like, for instance, if Bama beats Texas A&M this weekend, they'll have a back-to-back road game. It's not necessarily that. It's just an insurmountable.
I don't think they win this week.
I don't think so either. I
think A&M wins.
Yeah, I think so too. I think A&M's the best team in the West right now. So, yeah, it's going to be brutal.
I told you that was coming.
Well, I had them on the over win total. I really like Texas A&M going into the season. So
their D line is insane. It's insane.
Yeah, they're good.
Back to Missouri. If you take away Luther Burden in whatever way that you think that you can, and you actually are able to do it, they got other dudes that can beat you too.
Right. Yeah.
So, Carter, what's the game plan in something like this? What do you do? Because I really don't know of a solution. I really can't sit here, Carter, in confidence. Like I'm so on Mondays, you know this. I watch the film. I start writing down my keys to victory, my 5 keys to victory every week. I have no idea what to write down defensively. I have zero clue.
Yeah, so this is what I would do. All right.
I know what you're about to say.
No, let's see it. I'm interested.
Where is it? You'd go amoeba.
You'd go amoeba.
You'd go amoeba. Carter, you gotta be more aggressive.
Yeah. Here's what I would do is on clear 1st and 10, 2nd and long situations and stuff like that. I would force Missouri to run the football, give them light boxes, right? Because at this point, we know that our pass defense isn't great. A pass is always going to be more productive than a run. So let's see if they can consistently run the football on LSU. Missouri has Cody Schrader, a very solid between tackle running back. He's a pretty good football player. But he's not a Judkins level player. He doesn't have the same explosiveness as Ulysses Bentley, but as you said, Missouri's got other guys as well. And the other thing I would do, Blake, is, the Ryan Yates play, once again, it was 4th down. This was the only instance where LSU really did this. I would just go 0 blitz at this point for this reason, okay? Now, you can't run this, obviously, on every play. You got to do it.
And you have to have a safety over the top. Like, you're not completely bailing on 0 blitz. I think what you're trying to say is you got to generate pressure in other ways and stuff like that. You can go 0 free. You can go man free, okay? It's what you got to do. And, Carter, quite honestly, you got to go to Ryan Yates and say, listen, young man, absolutely nothing gets behind you.
Okay, so I disagree. Just 0 it. No safety over the top. And just
you're going to get killed. You're going to get – because I don't know if LaTerrence Welsh, I don't know if he knows the plays at this current moment.
But that's a good thing about 0 is there is no play. You just guard the man.
He already messed up man-to-man this week. Remember,
exactly.
I sent you on the crossing route.
So you don't play him. My thing is, at this point – You can't play if you can't tackle, right?
You can't play if you don't know the plays.
Right. So I would not play him. He had a great first drive.
Hell of a first drive. I got excited.
And then after that,
he went to Rudy Poutet.
Yeah, it was tough, right? First real game action, though, you give him a little leeway. I now I'm not saying do that on every snap, but there's 2 things that are going to happen if you do that, okay? The first thing is somebody is going to get home, okay? Somebody's going to get home. You're always going to have more. You're always going to have more than one person that they can block. And the second thing that's going to happen is there cannot be a coverage bust. Now, if you make one tackler miss, it's a touchdown, but so be it. You're not stopping them anyway, and it gives the football back to the offense. I don't know at this point. I would do it more often though, because it did get you off the field one time, and I would try it 4 or 5 times. Hell, let's see if it works. And you would be shocked at how often offenses are shell shocked when you get very aggressive and crowd the line like crazy. One thing about Brady Cook though is he can move. He does have some dual threat.
And you know what he ain't gonna do? Let me tell you what he's not gonna do. He is not gonna turn the football over.
Right. Now, I don't think he's going to hurdle a guy. I don't ever want to see a quarterback hurdling us again.
Okay, can we talk about a couple plays really quickly?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it.
That broke me.
Yeah, no, that one. Yeah, that hurts.
1st and 19, and you got Jackson Dart and his Theta Chi having ass hurdling somebody. Theta Chi till he dies. He's screaming Theta Chi till he dies when he's hurdling Andre Sam.
Man,
never dies.
He had a toga party that night.
Hell yeah, he did.
He was hurdling.
You ever seen Blue Mountain State?
I've not.
Okay, well, he had one of their guys on their football team said he's having a party in his pants because he just hurdled somebody.
Oh man, yeah, that one. When people start doing the highlight stuff, it's just crazy. Now I know we are running out of time, but I do want to shout out personally Jaden and the offense putting it together.
Okay, one more play.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so a couple things. Number one, I know that you said you thought the questions today in the press conference were good. I thought they were completely ass. The first question was a complete lob. The second one, do you run dual coverage? What are we doing? All right, what are we doing? But I've seen this on this beat way too much. You got people out here blaming Jaden Daniels' fumble for you losing the game. I know. So here's the truth. I went back and watched even the rollout play. The ref was about to throw the flag because it was a pick. If Jaden throws that ball to Neighbors, he has got – go back and watch it. He has got hand on flag, and he's going to throw it. The reason he doesn't is because Jaden runs. And Jaden, I think, thought maybe I'm fast enough to get to the outside and get the first down. I really believe that. And you know what else I don't hate? I don't hate. Everybody hates the play call. Okay, I'm with you. Jaden had been cooking up to that. You know what the play was designed to? You're getting Malik Neighbors, your best offensive weapon, the football.
Yeah.
Now, I thought that they were going to run the ball twice because Brian Kelly likes to run the ball on 4th and 6, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. So he's 4th and manageable. I thought that they were going to do that. But anybody, Carter, anybody on this planet blaming the offense and Jaden Daniels for any fumble or not throw there at the end, that is complete and utter asinine, in my opinion. What do you think?
No, I agree. It's a small piece of what Brian Kelly said at the end of the game, which is, yes, the offense still had a chance to win it. And if the ball gets completed to Malik and they don't throw the flag for the pick, then it's a brilliant play call. Obviously, you're running it against the defensive coordinator you ran it against last year to win the game. I will say this, okay? Brian Kelly was not good on that drive. All right. So the second play of the drive, all right, or of that sequence was coming off an injury, and they ran the play with 28 seconds left to go on the play clock. In that situation, I'm not the biggest believer in just bleeding the play clock all the way down. Just have your offense play in rhythm. In that situation, you have to let that clock bleed all the way down because there was a stoppage in play. There is no benefit of going fast there. And then, obviously, on that second down play, there was I don't know if there was an option to pull it and throw to Malik. If there was, and Jaden elects to do it, the game is over on that play because Malik is probably running in for a touchdown. The third down play call, I liked. I did.
He does not. You know how I know he doesn't?
Why?
Because the tight end went to the second level and is already in run mode. Like he's there. Like at the mesh. Right.
So you think the second down call was an automatic run?
I cannot fathom it not. I know that you talked about it. I cannot fathom because Mason Taylor's there. He doesn't even chip. Like he's already breaking down at the backer when Jaden's in his, like, I guess you can call it a 4-port reads, catch, go, read, deliver. He was in the deliver stage, okay, and he's got to make a decision, and Mason Taylor's already there. And his hand, like Carter, he's already have pulled his right hand.
So right? You're talking about the second down or the third down play?
The second down play where he gave it, and I think he got 6. Was that third down?
No, okay. So the first down play was Jaden pulling, and he picked up 6 yards, and that was the right. Okay. So Markway was on the field. I think Taylor came back in on third down.
That's right, because Taylor got hurt from the wind getting knocked out. That's right.
So the thing that we don't know, maybe you know, I don't know. Was the second down play just a handoff all the way?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's impossible to know. And then the third down call, I was fine with it, especially coming out of a timeout. It's a play that everybody on that LSU.
Malik the ball. You're trying to get Malik the ball.
Right. And it was there. I think Jaden should have ripped it. But that was, to me, the only mistake that Jaden made the entire game. There were some other missed throws in the game, but maybe like one or two. There was one on the final drive
what he's doing with Brian Thomas right now is unconscionable.
Right. Yeah. And the one thing I would say about Brian Kelly, and this, if there was one thing I could say to him, okay, and I've said it on my show repeatedly, I'll say it here, is, okay, so you go back to the Arkansas game the week before, and it was in the first half, second quarter, they had a 4th and 11, all right, and they punted the football away. Okay, Colorado State made the same mistake to Colorado. If you're going to take a delay of game penalty and you're going to punt the football away, you have got to, on that 4th down, keep your offense on the field and try to draw them off sides. You just do. And teams just don't do it. So they had the chance to do it versus Arkansas.
I don't know why you don't go for it on 4th and 7.
And then it lends itself to this next discussion. Should Brian Kelly have gone for it? Now, Cokie Riley asked the question right after the press conference. I'm glad that he did. He should have gone for it. Now, this is where I will defend Brian Kelly to a certain extent, okay? I think he was a little shell-shocked because the play happened right in front of him. He was standing right in front of everything that was happening. And I think he was a little shocked that Jaden didn't throw it to Malik. So that obviously probably perplexed him. And a hard thing to do when you're going for it on fourth down is there was a huge pile. So Jaden was up in the air, it was a huge pile.
Making a bad throw.
Right. So now you got to get everybody back into the huddle and try to set up for a fourth down play that you probably weren't prepared for. You were probably thinking on that play, Blake, that there is no way that this play is gaining negative yardage, but it did. It cost him 2.5 yards, right? I'll defend Brian Kelly just a little bit. I still agree with you. You've got to go for it. You just do. Ole Miss has a really good field goal kicker. They only needed 3 points to win the game. So it's not just that your defense has to stop them. They've got to stop them even better than what they hadn't been stopping them, right? All they need is a field goal. They don't need a touchdown in this situation. The issue, though, is I don't think Brian Kelly was prepared to see that play lose yardage. And then if you go for it, with the pile being the way that it was, you're probably having to burn another timeout. So what I would have done, Blake, is in that situation, kind of like what they should have done versus Arkansas the week before, is at least hard counted. We know that Ole Miss likes to jump off sides. They did in this game. They did again, and they didn't call it. You have to do that in that situation. And then you could see, well, okay, they jumped off sides. Now it's 4th and 2. We're definitely going for it. So he should have gone for it. He just should have. It would have been a radical decision. But number one, the public would have backed it. That's the main reason why a lot of coaches don't want to do it, is because it's very unconventional. Anybody with a pulse would have told you that the LSU defense wasn't stopping anyone. And Blake, you have an increased sample of the defense not stopping anybody in the second half because
and you're not running the play to bleed clock. If they
Right.
scored, then you still have more time.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So also something else is you did not stop them versus Arkansas in the second half. You did not stop Florida State in the second half, okay? Your second half defense has a large sample size of being awful. So in this spot, you've got to let Jaden decide to win the game, even though Jaden had one of his worst plays on that third down. So I think going for it, and Brian Kelly is one of my favorite coaches when it comes to fourth down decision making. He's a very aggressive, analytic, sharp mind. Blake, I'll tell you this, the fourth down model that I use, it's my buddy Jared D. Lee. He actually said, his model said for them to punt, but that model does not include that the defense stinks and your offense is playing ungodly.
Analytics doesn't have the feel of the game.
Right.
Right.
You've got to go for it. You've just got to go for it. And I've given Brian Kelly a lot of credit for going against the books. Last year versus Arkansas.
Last year against Bama. Twice.
Right. Yeah. So LSU had a 4th and 1 to win the game versus Arkansas last year. And the computers say go for it. But the offense had sucked, and Harold Perkins was playing unbelievable. And he said, look, Harold, go decide the game. And he did. Okay. Let your best player decide the game. And I think Jaden, I mean, hell, we averaged 8 yards per play. You needed 7 to win the game. So just
oh my God.
Let Jaden and Malik decide it. Now let me ask you this, and I want the chat to answer this as well.
We can go a little bit longer because this is a special deal. All the other segments are out. Like we can go a little bit longer.
My wife did burgers tonight, so I don't know how I'm thinking about that.
All right, now. One last thing.
No. I would like your thoughts because you know Chris as well. Did you think Chris was catching that ball?
I did.
I did too.
You know why I did? Because he broke the state record in high jump.
Right. Like out of anyone on the team.
And you know what else? So here's a couple things I want to say offensively because we have not talked offense at all.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. Kyron Lacey is such a unicorn that name a time that Kyron Lacey really hasn't been open. Like, name a time that he just, like, when he's thrown the football, he's got a really good chance of catching it. But Carter, I got to tell you something. The drops drive me insane.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The one at the end of the second quarter when you're trying to get the field goal, the one at the end of the game, he made a fantastic catch. But Carter, I felt like he didn't have a choice but to catch the fade route that he caught.
Yeah, it was right there.
It was literally, he just, bro, on your film breakdown, Carter, he literally does this. It's like a newborn baby when it's out the womb, okay? He just had to legitimately do this. Jane put it on a mother bleeping dime.
Yeah.
That drives me insane.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, if you're not going to stop them anyway, I don't know. Because I don't think that you have an answer for Luther Burden. The truth is this week, Jaden Daniels is going to have to go perfect again, Carter. There were 2 games. So let's think about this. In back-to-back games, he had a stretch where he went 15 of 15. All right? Arkansas. He had a stretch going into the 10th possession. All right, so let's count this for just a minute. Hold on one second because I have it right here. I want to read this to you. He started off the 10th possession, 21 of 22. You know what he did? He goes 22 of 23 because he throws a 10-yard one. He goes 24 of 25. Taylor for 14 yards. Logan Diggs touchdown on a run. 11th possession, his first drop of the day was Kylan Jackson. He hadn't had an incompletion in 2.5 hours.
Kylan Jackson.
I mean, Caleb Jackson.
Okay, yeah, Caleb Jackson. Okay. Yeah, that was a drop.
He went 24 of 25, and we still lost.
It's crazy. It's crazy how good he's playing. And I do believe Chris was actually going to come down with that. I do believe it was pass interference. They're never calling it there.
He's out.
And I hate that he got banged up because that was a brute. I mean, he was so high up in the air. The ball was so perfectly thrown too.
But you know what? We would feel so good because we won the game, but I would have felt the same exact way.
Oh, me too. Me too. And
I would have felt the same exact. The winning and losing doesn't change how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I kind of wanted Chris to catch it just to see how LSU fans would have reacted to it.
Oh, they would say, well, you have those kinds of games. So at least
right.
we have the offense to do it. At least we have the offense to do it. You technically had to win a game like that against Alabama in 19.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Howard, what play did I not look at? I'm interested. He saw Neighbors fall in the middle of the play.
I don't even know. Howard. Carter did not look at that play. He saw Neighbors fall in the middle of the field, not the third down play.
Oh, I think he's talking about the tweet I had earlier today about players slipping. Or LSU had a lot.
No, he did. Bryant Thomas Jr. almost slipped on the third down conversion. Carter, how about this? You want to talk about horrifically bad? Did you know against Florida State, Arkansas, and Ole Miss that LSU on third down defensively is 60.5% on third down?
And what makes it even worse, Blake, is
even if it's 10%, they might be undefeated.
Right. What makes it kind of worse, Blake, is there was a lot of third and longs they converted. There were so many third and longs. And the one thing I would say about Matt House is all the issues LSU fans used to think of when John Chavis got beat on third and long, these are way worse. These are way, way, way worse, okay? Some of these are missed tackles. I talked about the Denver Harris play a little bit earlier, but some of these are just guys running open, and some of these are just bad calls. Blake, we've not talked a lot about the pass rushing of LSU. There's very little creativity. very little creativity. I think tackles are starting to scout us with that, and they're like, well, they're not going to hit us with any moves. We don't have to worry about that.
Name another move other than the dip and rip from Harold Perkins.
That's it. That's it. I'm shocked because obviously he's got all the tools to do.
Nothing. He has learned nothing. He hasn't learned a spin move. He hasn't learned nothing.
And he can. I mean, obviously, it's not for a lack of athleticism. I mean, I understand as a pass rusher, he's not blessed with like Max Crosby arms or anything like that. But I mean,
you don't need to.
You don't absolutely need to have that to be
He's Von Miller, bro.
Right. So
without the weapons,
it's very stale. The pass rush, from LSU, and it's also just not been good when it comes to pass rush lane integrity with guys running free. Obviously the Jackson Dart play you mentioned a minute ago. So I mean, that's why you bring in Pete Jenkins to hopefully spice things up a little bit with some different moves.
And I hadn't even talked about him. What do you? Last question. I swear to God, because we got to go. What do you think of Pete Jenkins coming in?
I obviously this is the most well-respected defensive line coach maybe out there. I mean, you can look at plenty of YouTube lectures he's done. Honestly, Blake, I would have been excited about anybody with any kind of defensive line pedigree coming into this room because I do think it is a lot.
What can he teach him in a week, though?
A lot. Okay, so
I don't think he can.
Yeah, he can help answer some of these questions. Okay, so one question I was getting a lot of, Blake, was why do the LSU defensive linemen have a tendency to line up about a yard off the ball? Okay, they do that from time to time.
You said
okay. I said do. I did. And honestly, it is an effective technique. Sometimes it's done versus teams that do play a lot of counter, so you don't just over penetrate a play and they just wash you out. Michael Brockers actually did some of this in on the 2011 defense. He'll line about a yard off the ball. So Pete, knows everything there is to know about defensive line play. He can go in and examine if that is actually something we should be doing. He's also going to examine if the players actually fit what LSU is trying to do.
That's the biggest thing. I said that.
Right.
I said that today on Holberg.
Right.
First off, it shouldn't have taken you 2 losses to figure this out. That you got a massive problem.
Right.
Okay. Then number 2, I know the first thing he's going to say. I've talked to Pete multiple times. He's going to say, "Don't put Mekhi Wingo at the nose, you dummy." Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
I don't think that's going to be the absolute first
the number one thing he's going to say.
But I do think they could have said Christian Lacouture. They could have said anyone with any type of defensive line experience who's worked with these guys.
Look at McFarland.
If I would have been fine with it. Just someone to come in and help. Because here's
who I would have called? You know who I would have called?
Go ahead.
There's a guy out there in Ruston.
Oh, Kyle. Let's go, big Kyle.
Hey, you think I'm playing?
Call Kyle Dub, man.
He is the most prolific defensive interior tackle that we've ever had.
If you factor in pro career, I agree.
I'm talking about a pro career.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not talking about at LSU. Glenn Dorsey does not know more than Kyle Williams. He doesn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, Kyle, especially since he's coaching now.
He was in the league for 27 years. He played against Bart Starr.
Oh no, I'm not. I do want to bring up one thing. All right. Obviously, the defensive line having 4 different coaches in 4 years isn't the best. Okay, that it's obviously it's not been great at all. All right, because the 4 defensive line coaches that have been here are all have different styles. Okay, and then taking a guy like Mason Smith, who was with Orgeron, and they had him just firing off the football, go make a play, and then now you're playing in an actual scheme. It's different, And Blake, you had a really good relationship with Jamar Cain. I didn't know Jamar.
Talked to him last night.
Okay. So I don't know Jamar, but I do know someone that was close to the assistant defensive line coach, Hill. I think Patrick Hill is his name. So he actually spent a lot of the time working with the DTs, right? So it's not just that you lose Jimmy Lindsey, you lost Jamar Cain. Hill had already left. He took a job at Colorado. Then he already made it to the NFL. The Vikings took him. So you got to think about all that brain power, all that experience that had been gone. And now you had John Gianczyk coming over to coach this position.